Hey, nappy friend, welcome back to our nappy little club. You're home now, and we saved your spot. Tonight, we travel back to 15th century Joseon, Korea, not as a king or a warrior, but as something far more enduring, a royal scribe. Imagine the gentle scrape of a brush on mulberry paper, the scent of fresh pine soot ink, and the profound, heavy silence of a room where history itself is being written. It's a life of immense pressure and discipline. You probably wouldn't survive the stress of having to write perfectly for 8 hours straight, while the king discusses state secrets. But here, in our cozy space, you're perfectly safe and relaxed. The only thing you need to worry about is your pillow being at the perfect angle. So before your eyelids get too heavy, if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, tap that like button and subscribe to keep our sleepy adventures coming. After all, nobody wants to miss out on history, right? We love to know where our stories are reaching, so feel free to leave a comment telling us where you're listening from and what time it is for you. So dim your lights, tune into the soft, comforting fan hum, and ease gently into tonight's journey, because you're now officially in Nappy community. You're not just listening, you're an essential part of our Nappy family, where every night is soothing, special, and yours. You're safe, valued, and always welcome. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not the absence of sound, but the quality of it. Here, in your family's small home nestled in the Gyeongsang province, silence is a tapestry woven from the gentle rustle of bamboo leaves in the breeze, the distant lowing of a neighbor's ox, and the soft, rhythmic sweeping of your mother's broom against the packed earth of the courtyard. You sit in the maru, the cool, polished wooden floor, a comfort against your legs. Before you rests a low table, and on it a single page from the works of Mencius. Your studies are your world, a world your father, a scholar of modest repute himself, has painstakingly built for you. For years, your life has followed this gentle, predictable rhythm. Wake at dawn, study the classics, practice your calligraphy, eat simple meals of barley rice and pickled vegetables, and then study again until the oil lamp sputters and dies. Today, however, a new sound has pierced the familiar tapestry. It is the sound of an approaching horse, a heavy, purposeful gait that speaks of official business. You lift your head, exchanging a glance with your father. Unscheduled visitors are rare. Visitors on horseback are an event. You watch as a man in the uniform of a royal messenger dismounts, his movements crisp and efficient. He carries a scrolled document, tied with a cord and sealed with the unmistakable crimson wax of the capital. Your heart, normally a steady, reliable drum, begins a nervous, unfamiliar rhythm against your ribs. The messenger announces his purpose in a loud, clear voice that seems to fill the entire valley. You, the second son of this household, are summoned to the capital, Hanyang, to sit for the royal scribal examinations. The silence that follows is heavier, more profound than any you have ever known. Your mother's hands fly to her mouth, her eyes wide. Your father, a man you've always seen as a pillar of calm composure, seems to shrink and grow all at once. He bows low, his voice trembling slightly as he accepts the scroll. The honor is immense, almost incomprehensible. To be a scribe is to be a shadow of the king, an ear to the court, a hand that will write the first draft of history. It is a position within the legendary Jifianjen, the Hall of Worthies, an institution founded by the great King Sejong himself. It is the intellectual and moral core of the dynasty, but with the honor comes a terrifying weight. Historians, centuries from now, will debate the true accessibility of the Guajio, the civil service examinations. While in theory they offered a path of social mobility, in practice the immense cost of the necessary education meant that only sons of the wealthy, Yangban, the aristocratic class, truly had a chance. Your family is Yangban, yes, but on the humbler end of the spectrum. They have poured everything into your education, foregoing luxuries and comforts to ensure you had the best tutors, the finest paper, the purest ink. This summons is the culmination of their sacrifice, and the pressure to succeed settles upon your shoulders like a physical cloak. The journey north is a slow, swaying, bumpy affair. You sit in a covered ox cart, the rhythmic creak of the wooden wheels, and the gentle plodding of the beast, a new kind of metronome for your days. This in itself is a luxury. Many aspiring scholars make the journey on foot, their precious books and brushes strapped to their backs. You watch the landscape of your childhood, the familiar green hills, the tidy rice paddies slowly give way to rugged mountains and sprawling plains you've only ever read about in books. Each night you stop at a simple traveler's inn, sharing a communal room with merchants and couriers. You unroll your small mat, eat a bowl of thin soup, and try to study by the light of a flickering candle. The boisterous laughter and talk of the other travelers a constant distraction. You feel a pang of longing for the serene silence of your provincial home. Here you are just another anonymous face in the river of humanity flowing towards the capital. Your dreams and fears your own private cargo. After 2 weeks of travel, you see it. Hanyang, the capital city. It rises from the plain like a challenge, its massive stone walls punctuated by towering, tiled gates. The sheer scale of it is breathtaking and terrifying. Your village could fit inside a single one of its districts. As your cart passes through the southern gate, Namdaman, you are plunged into a maelstrom of sensory information. The air is thick with 1,000 smells. Roasting chestnuts, pungent herbs from an apothecary, the sweat of laborers, the delicate perfume from a noblewoman's passing sedan chair. The noise is a constant roar of merchants hawking their wares, children shouting, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the murmur of 1,000 simultaneous conversations. You crane your neck, overwhelmed, feeling smaller than you have ever felt in your life. In the distance, rising above the endless sea of rooftops, you see the grand, sloping roofs of Gyeongbok Palace, and you know that somewhere within that sprawling complex of courtyards and halls is the Jifyeonjin. It seems impossible that you, a boy who just weeks ago was reading poetry by a stream, could be destined for such a place. You find the small rented room your father arranged for you. It is sparse but clean. You carefully unpack your belongings, your warm clothing, and more importantly, your 4 treasures, the brush, the ink, the paper, and the inkstone. You lay them out, your personal connection to the quiet, scholarly world you left behind. Outside, the sounds of the great city rumble on into the night, a constant reminder of the new world you have entered and the crucible that awaits you on the morrow. You wake long before the sun. A sliver of pale moon still hangs in the inky sky, offering little light and even less warmth. Sleep was a shallow, restless sea, and you feel as though you've been tossed by its waves all night. Today is the day, the first stage of the Guajio, the literary licentiate exam. It is not the final test to become a high-ranking official, but it is the gate through which all must pass. Success here allows you to proceed. Failure sends you home in shame, to wait another 3 years for the next opportunity. You wash your face with cold water from the basin in your room, the shock of it a welcome jolt to your frayed nerves. You dress carefully, not in your finest robes, but in simple, clean linen, as the summons instructed. There can be no hint of ostentation, no trace of arrogance. Today you are not the son of a provincial scholar. You are simply a candidate. One among hundreds. You join a silent, flowing river of other young men, all moving in the same direction, through the still dark streets of Hanyang. You are all dressed similarly, all clutching your writing implements, all wearing the same mask of grim determination. There is no friendly chatter, no exchange of encouraging words. Each of you is an island of private ambition and terror. The examination is being held in the grand courtyard of the Seong the National Confucian Academy, a place you've only ever dreamed of seeing. Its dignified, sweeping roofs and weathered wooden pillars seem to judge you as you approach. The air is thick with the scent of nervous sweat and the smoke from the guards' torches, which cast long, dancing shadows against the ancient walls. Before you can enter, you must endure the inspection. This is a formality you were told to expect, but the reality of it is jarring. You watch as the candidates ahead of you are stopped by stern-faced guards who run their hands along the seams of their robes, check inside their top knots, and even inspect the paper they carry. The process is both thorough and deeply undignified. Historians of a later age will marvel at the creativity of cheaters during these exams. Some would commission robes called bayot, intricately embroidered with thousands of microscopic characters from the classics on the inner lining, a wearable cheat sheet. Others would hire proxies, brilliant but low-born scholars, to take the test in their stead. You find a moment of dark, ironic humor in it all. Here you all are, aspiring to become the moral and intellectual guides of the nation, and the first step is to be treated like a common thief attempting to smuggle contraband. A young man just ahead of you is turned away with a harsh word, a small, tightly folded piece of paper found in the hem of his sleeve. His face crumples, his entire future undone by a moment of panic. When your turn comes, you stand with your arms out, your heart pounding, as the guard gives you a cursory but firm pat down. He finds nothing, of course, and waves you through. With a grunt, you are directed to your assigned spot. It is nothing more than a small straw mat on the cold, hard-packed earth of the vast courtyard. Hundreds of mats are laid out in brutally precise rows, stretching as far as you can see. The space is so tight that your elbows nearly touch those of the men on either side, yet you have never felt more alone. Stern-faced proctors, themselves accomplished officials who once sat on these same mats, patrol the narrow aisles. There, faces are unreadable stone. A hush falls over the massive crowd as an official on a raised platform reads the rules in a booming monotone. No communication of any kind. No looking at another's work. Your name, and your name only, is to be written. On the back of the paper, any infraction will result in immediate expulsion. and a multi-year ban. The message is clear. Your success or failure rests entirely on your own shoulders. Then, with a dramatic flourish, a large banner is unfurled at the front of the hall. On it, written in elegant, flowing characters, is the examination prompt. It is a single esoteric line from the doctrine of the mean, concerning the nature of sincerity and its cosmic implications. A collective, quiet groan seems to pass through the candidates like a wave. This is not a simple question of rote memorization. It requires deep philosophical insight, a flawless command of rhetoric, and the ability to weave together citations from a dozen different classics into a single, cohesive, and beautifully written argument. For a moment, your mind is a complete blank. The characters on the banner seem to swim before your eyes. This is the psychological crucible that future scholars will write about. The immense pressure of having your entire life's work, your family's honor, and your own self-worth judged on your performance over the next 8 hours. You see a candidate 2 rows ahead whose hand is shaking so violently that he knocks over his water pot, the dark stains spreading on the earth like a bad omen. You take a deep, shuddering breath. You close your eyes. You recite the first lines of a calming poem your father taught you. Then you begin the ritual. You pour a few drops of water onto your inkstone and begin to grind your inkstick in slow, deliberate circles. The familiar, earthy scent of the ink calms you. The rhythmic motion focuses your mind. You are no longer in a terrifying courtyard in Hanyang. You are back in your quiet room at home, practicing. The prompt begins to dissect itself in your mind. You see the structure of the essay, the introduction, the development, the balanced arguments, the powerful conclusion. You must write in the rigid 1,000-character essay format, a literary form as demanding as a sonnet. This is the great test of the Guizhou system, a system designed not just to find the most knowledgeable, but the most disciplined, the most resilient. The sun begins its slow climb, first warming your back, then beating down with unforgiving intensity. You ignore the stiffness in your legs, the growing ache in your spine. Your world shrinks to the space of your paper, the tip of your brush, and the river of black characters flowing from it. Hours pass like minutes. When the drum finally sounds to signal the end of the day, the sudden noise is a physical shock. You look up, blinking, dazed. The courtyard is now cast in the long orange shadows of late afternoon. Your fingers are cramped, your back is a knot of pain, but before you lies a scroll of paper filled with what you pray is the finest work of your life. You roll it carefully, your hands trembling slightly from exhaustion, and hand it to a waiting proctor. Walking out of the Seong Youngwon, the bustling energy of the city seems muted and far away. You feel hollow, scoured out. The wait for the Jia. Results will be its own special kind of torment. But for now, you have survived the crucible. The days following the examination stretch into an eternity of quiet anxiety. You spend them in your small room, trying to read, but your eyes pass over the characters without comprehension. Every footstep in the hallway outside your door sends a jolt through your system. Every distant shout from the street could be the announcement. You oscillate between feverish hope and a cold, leaden certainty of failure. The essay you wrote replays in your mind, and you find 1,000 flaws in it. A clumsy phrase here, a weak argument there. Finally, the day comes. A crowd has gathered before a large bulletin board outside the Ministry of Rights. The names of the successful candidates have been posted. You stand at the back, your throat too tight to breathe, unable to push through the throng of nervous men and their families. You see a young man collapse in tears, his father holding him. Are they tears of joy or sorrow? You can't tell then. You hear your name. Another man, a stranger, has seen the list and is congratulating his friend, pointing to a spot on the board. He points again and speaks a name you know better than your own. You stumble forward, pushing your way through the crowd with a sudden, desperate energy. And there it is, your name written in bold, clean strokes. And next to it, an annotation that makes your blood run cold with disbelief. Appointed to the Hall of Worthies. A wave of dizziness washes over you. It cannot be real. This is a distinction reserved for the absolute best, the prodigies, the most brilliant minds of your generation. Yet there it is, your name. A quiet, profound joy, so immense it feels like a physical weight, settles into your chest. You have done it. You have honored your family. You have survived. A few days later, a palace eunuch arrives at your lodging with a new summons and a bundle of dark blue silk. Your official robes. The fabric is smooth and heavy, a world away from the simple linen and cotton of your old life. Putting them on, you feel like an actor in a play, the costume transforming you into someone you do not yet recognize. You are escorted to Gyeongbok Palace. This time you do not shuffle past the gates as an anonymous aspirant. The guards at the magnificent Gwanwamun gate see your robes, your official medallion, and they snap to attention, offering you a crisp bow. You walk through the vast stone courtyards, your footsteps echoing, where only the highest officials are permitted to tread. The sheer, calculated grandeur of the palace, designed to awe and intimidate, now feels like it is, in some small way, yours. You are a cog in this vast, magnificent machine. You are not led to the Grand Throne Hall or the royal quarters, but to a more modest, single-story building in a quieter sector of the palace. It lacks the bright paint and ornate carvings of the other structures. Its beauty is in its simplicity and the deep, scholarly seriousness that seems to radiate from its wooden pillars and paper-screened windows. A simple plaque hangs by the door, Joseon, the Hall of Worthies. You pause at the threshold, your heart hammering against your ribs. This is the intellectual soul of Joseon. You take a breath, smooth the front of your new robes, and step inside. The air is cool and thick with the scent of paper, ink, and time itself. The light is dim, filtered through the hangy paper of the windows, creating a soft, reverent glow. The only sounds are the rustle of turning pages, the whisper of brushes on paper, and the low murmur of scholarly debate. Seated at low desks throughout the large, open room are men whose faces you know only from woodblock prints and legend. These are the 20 elite scholars of the realm, the personal brain trust of King Sejong. You see Shin Suk-ru, the brilliant linguist, comparing texts from neighboring kingdoms. You see Jang Enji, the venerable historian, poring over ancient records. These men are not just academics. They are the architects of the dynasty's golden age, the minds behind everything from legal reform to astronomical calendars. It is even rumored that they are working on a secret project for the king, a new phonetic script for the common people, something revolutionary and unheard of. You feel like a schoolboy who has wandered into a meeting of the gods. You are shown to a small, empty desk in a corner, far from the senior scholars. Your place in the hierarchy is made perfectly, silently clear by an older scribe, a man named Park with eyes that are both kind and perpetually weary, is assigned as your mentor. His fingers are permanently stained with ink, a testament to a lifetime of service. He welcomes you with a slight nod. "Breathe, boy," he whispers, a small smile playing on his lips. "They were all you once, terrified and trying not to. Spill their ink." He quietly points out the major figures, then leans in conspiratorially. "Watch Scholar Seong and Scholar Ha. They debate the finer points of Neo-Confucian metaphysics, but the truth is they cannot stand each other. One slighted the other's cousin in a provincial poetry contest a decade ago. It's a small, humanizing detail that pierces the hall's intimidating aura, a hint that even in this hallowed space the normal currents of rivalry and ambition still flow. Historians will one day argue about this, whether the Jianjian was a pure academic utopia or just another battlefield of court politics. You seem to be witnessing evidence for the latter. Then, Park gives you a piece of advice that seems utterly bizarre. "Work hard," he says. "Be diligent, be precise, and be invisible. If the king notices your work, truly notices its quality, he may grant you the saga doxeo, the reading leave. You have heard of this, but assumed it was a myth." Park confirms it is real. The king will grant a promising scholar a paid leave of several weeks. He will send you to a quiet mountain temple, provide you with books, food, wine, and even servants, and your only duty will be to read and think. It is an incredible, almost wasteful patronage. It tells you everything you need to know about King Sejong. He doesn't just command his scholars, he cultivates them. Your first task is humbling. Park places a scroll on your desk. It is an old, slightly damaged record of rice tribute from a southern province, dated a century prior. "Make a perfect copy," he says. "No mistakes, no interpretations. Every stroke as it was. It is a test of your calligraphic skill, your attention to detail, and most importantly, your humility. You are not here to be a great thinker yet. You are here to be a perfect instrument. As you begin to work, grinding your ink and carefully tracing, the first character, the weight of your new reality settles in. Your life is no longer about passing exams or winning prestige. It is about this, the silent, meticulous, anonymous preservation of a single fact. And as you lose yourself in the task, the fear begins to fade, replaced by a quiet, profound sense of purpose. After a week of performing simple copying tasks, your mentor, Park, decides you are ready. He leads you not to the main library, but to a small, secure storeroom at the back of the Jianjian. The air inside is cool and dry and smells faintly of camphor wood used to repel insects. Along the walls are dozens of small, lacquered chests and wooden boxes. This is the repository of supplies, but it feels more like a vault of treasures. Today, you are to be formally issued your own set of the Manban Suwu, the Four Treasures of the study. These are not tools you will borrow. They will be yours, your constant companions for as long as you serve here. It is a quiet ceremony with only you and Park present, but it feels as significant as your induction into the hall itself. He begins with the inkstone, the bioru. He places a heavy, dark object wrapped in silk into your hands. You unwrap it. It is a slab of deep gray, almost black slate, polished to a soft sheen, but not a mirror gloss. It is cool and solid, its weight substantial and reassuring. It is unadorned, lacking any fancy carving, but its perfection lies in its flawless surface. A smooth, flat plane for grinding, with a gently sloped edge leading down into a crescent-shaped well to hold the ink. This stone is from the southern mountains, Park says softly. It is dense, so it will not absorb the water, and its grain is fine, so it will not shred the bristles of your brush. Treat it with respect. A good stone will outlive you, and the scribe who takes your place will thank you for your care. You run your thumb over its cool, smooth surface and feel a sense of permanence, of connection to a long line of scholars before you. Next, he presents you with a small, elongated box made of paulownia wood. He slides the lid open, and a subtle, complex fragrance fills the air, not a floral perfume, but something deep, earthy, and pleasant, like a pine forest after rain with a hint of musk. Inside, nestled on a bed of silk, is your ink stick, your miak. This is the famous sanjan, or pine soot ink, a specialty prized by scholars. It is a dense, black stick, heavier than it looks, and its surface is polished to a deep luster. Along its length, a breathtakingly intricate design has been carved. A single, elegant crane standing on one leg beneath the gnarled branches of an ancient pine tree, a symbol of longevity and wisdom. Future art historians will recognize these as miniature works of art in their own right, their creation a closely guarded secret. You are almost hesitant to use it, to slowly grind away such a beautiful object. Park seems to read your thoughts. Its beauty is meant to inspire the hand that holds it, he says. Its purpose is to be transformed into words. Do not be precious with it, but do not be wasteful. From another chest he retrieves your brushes, the butt. You are given, not one, but a set of 3, their handles crafted from smooth, pale bamboo. They are wrapped in a roll of leather that you untie to reveal the different tips. One is long and full, made of soft goat hair for broad, expressive strokes. Another is smaller and stiffer, a mix of wolf and rabbit hair for standard script. The last is a fine-tipped brush of precious weasel hair, sharp enough to write a poem on a grain of rice, reserved for the most detailed work and annotations. Finally, he hands you a stack of paper, hanji. It is Korean mulberry paper, renowned throughout the known world. It is soft white, almost cream-colored, and when you hold the sheet up to the light, you can see the fine interwoven fibers that give it its legendary strength and longevity. It will not tear easily, and it absorbs the ink in a way that prevents bleeding, creating a clean, sharp line. Back at your desk, the second and more important ritual begins. Park guides you through the meditative process of preparing your ink. This is not a chore, he explains, but a preparation of the mind. You place a few drops of clear, fresh water on the surface of your new inkstone. You take the beautiful ink stick in your hand, holding it perfectly perpendicular to the stone. Slowly, he instructs, no pressure. Let the weight of the stick do the work. You begin to move it in a slow, steady, circular motion. The only sound is the soft, rhythmic she of the ink stick against the stone. It is a deeply satisfying sound. Gradually, the water begins to darken, turning from gray to a deep, rich black. The pine and musk scent is released more strongly into the air around you. It is a calming, focusing ritual. Hasty ink is gray and lifeless, Park murmurs. Patient ink is black as night and full of spirit. When the ink is the consistency of melted honey, you are ready. You select the wolf hair brush. You dip the tip into the glistening black pool in the inkstone's well, allowing the bristles to drink their fill. You hold the brush vertically, your posture straight, your breathing even, and you think about the debate that has captivated scholars for centuries. Is the life, the energy, the GI, and a line of calligraphy a mystical property? Or is it merely the product of supreme technical skill? Is it magic, or is it physics? As you lower the brush to the paper to practice the character for eternity, a character that contains all 8 fundamental strokes, you feel a current run from your still mind down your shoulder, through your arm and wrist, and into your fingertips. When the brush touches the hanji and the lustrous black ink flows into the fibers, the stroke that appears feels like more than just a mark. It feels alive. It feels like a part of you. You don't have an answer to the great debate, but you have a feeling. It feels like a partnership. You spend the rest of the afternoon filling page after page with that single character, seeking not variety, but perfection, consistency, and that same feeling of flow. You are no longer just a boy who passed an exam. You are a craftsman, and these are no longer just tools. They are the 4 treasures, and you are beginning to understand why. Your days fall into a quiet, unvarying rhythm, measured not by the sun's journey across the sky, but by the slow lowering of the ink level in your stone. The initial shock and awe of being in the Jiffyonjin has worn off, replaced by the steady, demanding reality of the work itself. There are no grand philosophical debates for you, no consultations with the king. Your world has shrunk to the size of a sheet of mulberry paper, and your great adversary is your own imperfection. Your primary duty for hours on end is to copy, not to compose, not to interpret, but to replicate. Your mentor, Park, will place a scroll on your desk, a chapter from the Analects of Confucius, a poem from the Tang Dynasty, a record from a previous reign, and your task is to create a perfect facsimile. It is a discipline that borders on the spiritual. You must match the master's work exactly. Every stroke, every dot, every slight variation in pressure must be reproduced. At first, it is a frustrating mechanical exercise, but as days turn into weeks, you find yourself entering a state of deep concentration, a place where the world outside your desk fades away. It's in this state that a strange question begins to surface in your mind, a question future academics will endlessly debate. As you look at your finished page, a near-flawless mirror of the original, you feel a flicker of pride followed by a hollow echo. Where are you in this work? Have you simply become a human printing press? Is this relentless focus on perfect form a way to forge a master, or is it a way to kill the artist within, sanding away any nubs of individuality until all that remains is polished, impersonal skill? You look across the room at the senior scholars. When they take notes for their own research, Their brushes fly across the paper in a flurry of semi-cursive script, a style so full of energy and personality it seems to dance. You realize then that this period of perfect, selfless copying is not the destination. It is the path. You must first master the rules before you can ever hope to break them with grace. One afternoon, Park inspects your copy of a royal decree. Your work is in the standard script, the heiseo, the clear, precise style required for all official records. He nods slowly, a rare sign of approval. Then, without a word, he places another document before you. This one is different. The characters are wider, more squat, with a heavy, deliberate feel. It is the ancient clerical script, or UCO, a style used for stone inscriptions and the most formal of titles. A scribe with only one voice is no scribe at all, Park says, his voice low. The annals require clarity. A monument requires gravity. Your hand must learn to speak in different tongues. The transition is jarring. Your muscles, so carefully trained to produce the balanced, elegant strokes of heiseo, are clumsy and awkward as you attempt the new style. It feels like trying to write with your other hand. But you persist, your respect for the senior scholars growing with every poorly formed character. To have mastery over all these forms is a monumental achievement. Park is a man of few words, but his eyes miss nothing. He notices the slight tremor that appears in your wrist after a long session, a sign of fatigue that compromises the integrity of your final strokes. The next morning you find two small, heavy pouches on your desk filled with sand. He ties them firmly around your wrists. Your lines are neat, but they lack weight, is his only explanation. The sandbags feel like shackles. Your first attempt at writing is a disaster. The brush feels alien and uncontrollable, the characters thick and clumsy. Your entire arm aches from the strain. It feels less like a lesson and more like a punishment, a strange, almost eccentric form of scholarly hazing. Yet you do not question it. You simply adapt. You learn to engage your shoulder and back, to drive the brush with the strength of your whole body, not just your nimble fingers. In the profound quiet of the hall, a unique soundscape emerges. It is the sound of collective effort. The primary note is the soft, dry whisper of dozens of brushes moving across fibrous paper, a sound like an autumn breeze rustling through a forest of bamboo. Beneath that is the gentle, intermittent scrape of ink sticks on stone as scribes replenish their ink, and the occasional, almost imperceptible rustle of a silk sleeve. It is a silence that is not empty but full. It is the sound of concentration, of discipline, of dozens of minds and hands working in perfect, focused unison. You are a single musician in this silent orchestra, and your part is to play in perfect time. After nearly 2 weeks of this arduous training, Park unties the sandbags. You lift your hand. It feels impossibly light, as if it could float away. You pick up your brush, dip it in the ink, and draw a single long horizontal line. It is flawless. It is steady, unwavering, and it possesses a certain vital energy it lacked before. It has weight. A quiet, profound satisfaction warms you from the inside. It's a victory no one else will ever see, a silent testament to the struggle. You look at the stacks of practice sheets that have accumulated by your desk, hundreds of pages filled with thousands of nearly identical characters. They represent a significant portion of your young life. An outsider might see this as the pinnacle of boredom, a soul-crushing exercise in repetition, but you see it differently now. The training was never about the pages you were filling. It was about emptying your mind of ego. It was about forging the hand, the wrist, the arm into an instrument of perfect, unwavering control. You were not just learning to write. You were learning the language of silence. One morning, after you have completed a flawless transcription of a complex Buddhist sutra, Park does not give you a new text to copy. Instead, he simply watches you clean your inkstone, his expression unreadable. When you are finished, he gestures for you to follow him. A quiet thrill, laced with apprehension, runs through you. This feels different. He leads you out of the Joseon and across a series of stone courtyards towards the main administrative buildings of the palace, where the real business of the dynasty is conducted. He stops before the doors of a secondary audience hall, a place you have only ever seen from a distance. Your hand is now steady, he says, his voice barely a whisper. But the steadiest hand is useless if it is attached to a clumsy body and a nervous mind. Your training as a copyist is over. Now you will learn to be a sagwan, a historian. He pushes the heavy doors open into the empty hall. The cavernous room is ornate, with elaborately painted beams and a raised dais at one end where the king would sit. Park ignores it all. He walks you to a far corner of the room, to a spot partially obscured by a large, carved wooden screen. On the floor is a single, small, low-slung desk, barely large enough for a scroll of paper and an inkstone. This is your station, he says, his voice flat and serious. From here, you must see and hear everything, while being seen and heard by no one. This will be your world. For the next hour, he drills you. He makes you practice entering the hall, your footsteps completely silent on the polished floor. He makes you practice sitting, a single fluid motion that creates no sound. He has you arrange your 4 treasures on the tiny desk, insisting that no piece clink against another. A cough, an inconvenient sneeze, the scrape of a tool, any sound that draws attention to yourself is a catastrophic failure. You are learning the art of becoming a ghost, a piece of the furniture. Next, he teaches you the lesson of the gaze. He stands in the center of the room, pretending to be a minister addressing the throne. Watch me, he commands. You lift, your eyes to his face. Wrong, he snaps, his voice sharp. Never look at the speaker's face. Never look at His Majesty's face. Your eyes belong to your paper or to the chest of the man who is speaking. The moment you meet someone's eye, you become a person. You cease to be a record, a scribe who is seen as a threat or a target or a confidant. He is no longer a scribe. You practice this for what feels like an eternity, keeping your head down, your neck aching, learning to absorb the details of the room through your peripheral vision alone. Finally, he sits you down and explains the core of your new existence, the sacred principle of jikpo, the straight brush. His voice is low and intense. You will hear things that will make you blush and things that will make you boil with anger. You will see acts of profound wisdom and acts of petty foolishness. You will record it all. If the king slurs his words after drinking too much wine, you will note his slurred speech. If a minister offers a brilliant solution to a famine, you will record his every word. You are a mirror. You do not flatter, you do not soften, and you do not invent. You reflect precisely as you see. Then he tells you the most crucial, most dangerous part of the law. The king himself, the Son of Heaven, is forbidden from ever reading what you write. Your daily records, the sacho, are confidential. His eyes are bound so that your brush may be free, Park explains. It is this law that protects you. It is this law that protects the truth for the future. He may ask you, he may command you, he may threaten you. You will die before you show him your scroll. You feel a chill run down your spine. This is not a job. It is a sacred, perilous vow. Then Park leans in even closer, and his voice drops further, hinting at the complex debate historians will have about your role centuries later. The straight brush is an ideal, boy. You must strive for it. But you must understand that your power is not just in what you write, but in what you don't write. He gestures to the empty hall. In a heated debate, 3 ministers might speak at once. Whose words will you choose to record? You will see a general's hand tremble before a campaign. Is it fear or excitement? The word you choose to describe it will shape his legacy. Your selection, your focus, your choice of a single adjective that is a power that can build or destroy reputations. It is a power you must wield with more integrity and terror than any sword. Never forget, your true audience is not the king or the court. Your audience is history, and history is a patient and unforgiving judge. He tells you that your first real assignment will be the following day. It is a minor event, a poetry recital, in the presence of one of the royal princes. A test run. That night you cannot sleep. You lie on your mat, staring into the darkness, the weight of Park's words pressing down on you. The quiet discipline of the Joseon felt like a sanctuary. This feels like stepping into an arena. You are no longer just a scholar concerned with the beauty of a character. You are a guardian, a witness, a silent judge. You glance at your desk, where your brush, ink, paper, and inkstone rest in the moonlight. They no longer look like artists' tools. They look like weapons. And you, a boy from the provinces who was good at memorizing classics, have just been taught how to use them. The darkness is still absolute, a thick woolen blanket over the city of Hanyang. There is no moon, no hint of dawn in the eastern sky. Your day does not begin with light. It begins with sound. A low, resonant hum begins to vibrate through the floorboards of your small room, a feeling as much as a noise. Then it comes the deep, soul-shaking toll of the Bezingdak bell from the city's center. Bong. The sound washes over the sleeping capital, carrying for miles. This is the Injong, the morning bell, the official signal that the night's curfew is over, and the gates of the city will soon be unlocked. For you, it is your only alarm clock, a summons from the state itself. You rise without haste. Every movement is deliberate, a quiet ritual honed by repetition. You light a single candle, its small flame pushing back the immense darkness. You wash your face in the basin of cold water, the shock chasing away the last vestiges of sleep. You dress. In the heavy, dark silk of your official robes, the familiar weight on your shoulders, a reminder of your duty. You consume a simple, practical meal, a bowl of cold leftover rice and a cup of water. The day ahead will be long, and there is no guarantee of another opportunity to eat until nightfall. Finally, you gather your treasures. Your brushes, ink stick, and a small water dropper are carefully packed into a wooden case. Your inkstone is wrapped in a protective silk cloth. Your paper is rolled into a tube and slid into a leather satchel. You are a craftsman heading to his workshop. Stepping outside, the pre-dawn air is crisp and cold, and you can see your breath plume in the candle light from your paper lantern. The streets of the great city are nearly empty. The boisterous markets of yesterday, now a silent maze of shuttered stalls. The only sound is the soft slap of your straw sandals on the cobblestones and the distant, rhythmic clang of a blacksmith who has also answered the bell's call. You are not alone for long. As you walk, other figures emerge from the shadows. Of alleyways and side streets, other officials in similar dark robes, all moving with the same silent, purposeful stride, all flowing in the same direction. A river of bureaucracy trickling towards its source. You exchange no greetings, only the briefest of nods. This is a time for focus, not fellowship. Ahead, the palace emerges from the thinning darkness. Gyeongbokgung. Even after all this time, the sight of it still inspires a sense of awe. Its massive, tiered roofs, silhouetted against the gradually lightening sky, look like a mountain range built by giants. You don't approach the main Gwanghwamun Gate, the magnificent portal reserved for royal processions and foreign envoys. Your entry point is one of the smaller, less conspicuous gates on the eastern side. Jeonchunmun, the Gate of Spring Establishment, designated for civil officials and scholars of your rank. The very architecture dictates your place in the world. Once inside the palace walls, you are in a city within a city. Your journey has only just begun. You navigate a complex, familiar labyrinth of covered walkways, flagstone courtyards, and silent, imposing halls. The sheer scale of the operation is something future historians and archaeologists will debate for centuries just how many thousands of souls move through this space every single day. You see the first signs of this daily migration. A line of servants carrying baskets of firewood towards the royal kitchens, from which you can already smell the faint scent of wood smoke and steaming rice. A patrol of the royal guard, their armor glinting in the growing light, their footsteps a soft, rhythmic crunch on the gravel. You pass the quarters of the court ladies and the eunuchs, their paper-screened windows still dark and silent. Everyone has their place, their route, their function. Your destination is the Jifyanjin, and you find it, as always, an island of early activity. A few lanterns already glow from within, casting a warm, inviting light through the paper-lined windows. You are not the first to arrive. Some of the senior scholars, deep in their research, often work through the night, sleeping for a few hours on a mat in a back room before beginning again. Their dedication is both an inspiration and a constant, unspoken challenge. You slide open the door and step inside. The familiar smell of ink and old paper greets you like a friend. You bow to the few senior scholars already present and make your way to your corner desk. The first task of your day is always the same, a personal ritual that bridges the gap between the sleeping world outside and the world of focused intellect within. You unwrap your inkstone. You pour a few drops of water from your dropper, and you begin to grind your ink. The soft scraping sound is your morning prayer. It is a meditation. a way of gathering your thoughts and calming your spirit before the day's pressures begin. Across the room, other scholars and scribes are engaged in the same ritual. A quiet symphony of soft scraping fills the hall, the true morning anthem of the Hall of Worthies. The sun is finally rising, and its first weak rays slant through the high windows illuminating the millions of dust motes that dance in the air like tiny shimmering spirits. The ink is ready. The day is ready. You are ready. The quiet hum of the Jiffy engine is broken by the arrival of a palace eunuch, his silk robes rustling as he walks briskly to your mentor. They exchange a few whispered words, and then Park turns to you. His face is impassive, but his eyes are serious. His Majesty is convening the morning assembly. They are discussing the final draft of the new land tax code. You will be the recording scribe. Your blood runs cold, then hot. This is not a poetry recital. This is the gong beep, the most significant and controversial reform of King Sejong's reign, a complete overhaul of the kingdom's tax system. It has been debated for years, fiercely opposed by the powerful, land-owning aristocracy. This is the heart of the fire. You give Park a single, sharp nod, gather your satchel, and follow the eunuch, your heart hammering a nervous rhythm against your ribs. You enter the grand audience hall, and the scene before you is one of immense, calculated power. The room is already filled with the highest-ranking officials of the Joseon government, the ministers of the State Council. They are arranged in perfect, rigid order, standing before their designated seats like colorful statues in their vibrant red and blue robes. The hierarchy is absolute, a physical map of the kingdom's power structure. The air is thick with the scent of sandalwood incense and the almost palpable weight of unspoken tension. This is a room where a single word can seal a man's fate or change the course of the nation. You slip past them all, a ghost in dark blue, and take your place at the small, low desk in the corner, partially hidden by a large pillar. You are invisible now. You methodically arrange your paper, your inkstone, your water dropper. Your hands, to your relief, are perfectly steady. All those hours of practice, the sandbags, the endless repetition, it was all for this moment. Deep hush falls as the king enters. King Sejong the Great. He is not the towering, intimidating figure you might imagine from his title. He is a man in his middle years, stout and more academic than athletic, his movements deliberate. He walks not with the swagger of a warrior, but with the quiet confidence of a man who knows he is the smartest person in any room he enters. He settles onto the throne, his face a mask of serene, scholarly composure. But as his eyes sweep across the assembled ministers, you see a sharp, penetrating intelligence that misses nothing. The session begins. Your brush touches the paper. You are no longer writing in the elegant, careful standard script. You are using a rapid, almost frantic, semi-cursive shorthand, a stream of consciousness in ink, designed for speed above all else. The chief state counselor, Wang Hua, a man of immense prestige and age, rises to present the final draft of the gong beep. Your brush flies, capturing his formal, eloquent prose, which argues that the new system basing taxes on the actual fertility of the land and size of the harvest is a more just and righteous path, aligned with Confucian principles of benevolent governance. Then, the opposition speaks. The Minister of Rights, a member of a powerful aristocratic clan, whose vast land holdings in the fertile South would be heavily impacted by the new law, rises to his feet. His face is pale. He couches his objections in beautiful, classical language, speaking of the importance of tradition, the danger of upsetting the social harmony, the wisdom of the ancestors. But beneath the flowery rhetoric, his message is one of self-interest. Your brush dances, catching not only his words but the slight, almost imperceptible tremor in the silk of his sleeve. He is afraid, and you note it. King Sejong listens too. The entire speech without interruption, his expression unchanged. When the minister is finished, a heavy silence hangs in the room. This is the critical moment. The king does not raise his voice. He does not rebuke the minister. He simply begins to ask questions. They are quiet, simple, academic questions. You speak of the wisdom of the ancestors, minister, a noble sentiment. Could you remind us what the tax yield was from your home province during the great drought of the 5th year of my reign under the current system? And another, you speak of social harmony. Does a system where a farmer with poor, rocky soil pays the same rate as a farmer with rich river delta soil promote harmony or resentment? Each question is a surgeon's scalpel, precise and devastating, cutting through the layers of rhetoric to expose the raw, selfish motive at the core. And it is here that you see it, a glimpse of the man behind the official portrait, a hint of the answer to the debate historians will one day have about his true nature. For a fleeting second, the king's scholarly placidity vanishes, and his eyes become hard, cold steel. It is not the hot anger of a tyrant, but something far more chilling, the look of a supremely confident mind, enjoying its own absolute dominance, a flash of political ruthlessness that ensures his will shall be done. How do you record that? Straight brush can capture his words perfectly, but can it capture that look? Can it record the sudden drop in temperature in the room? You make a tiny, coded symbol in the margin of your scroll of private mark that means cold or sharp, a note to your future self that something significant, something beyond the mere words happened in this moment, the king's surgical dismantling. Of the opposition emboldens a junior scholar from the Ministry of Taxation, a key architect of the new law. Breaking protocol, he steps forward and speaks, his voice trembling but clear, offering a passionate defense of the reform, armed with data, surveys, and figures. The king turns his gaze to this young man, and the icy sharpness is gone, replaced by a look of quiet approval. He has found his justification. He has won the political battle. He raises a hand. The debate is over. The gong beep will be law. The meeting adjourns. The ministers file out, their faces a mixture of triumph and barely concealed fury. You remain in your corner, your fingers cramped, your mind racing. The scroll before you is a mess of frantic scribbles, ink smudges, and coded marginalia. It is the raw, chaotic, unfiltered truth of power, and you are its sole guardian. The formal duties of the day are concluded. You have spent the afternoon back in the quiet sanctuary of the Joseon, your hand aching as you meticulously transcribed your frantic, semi-cursive notes from the morning's tax debate into a clean, legible draft. The process is painstaking. You must ensure every recorded word is accurate, every nuance of the exchange preserved, including your small, coded mark about the king's chilling gaze. That single messy scroll is now a pristine, orderly document ready to be archived, and one day compiled into a much larger history. The senior scholars are now lost in their own research, their heads bowed over ancient texts under the warm glow of oil lamps. The day is officially over. You could return to your small room in the city, eat a hot meal, and sleep. But the words of your mentor, Park, echo in your mind. A scribe observes everything. History is not only made in the throne room, it is made in the hallways, the courtyards, and the quiet moments between grand events. So instead of taking the most direct route out of the palace, you choose to wander. You follow a long, covered walkway that skirts the western edge of the Queen Dowager's private compound. This is the boundary of the Naimi Yongbu, the inner court, the exclusive domain of the royal women. As a male official, you are strictly forbidden from entering, but the perimeter is a place of subtle fascination. The very atmosphere here is different. The air, which in the administrative courts smells of ink and serious purpose, here carries the faint scent of floral perfume, medicinal herbs, and the sweet aroma of honey cakes being prepared in a distant kitchen. The sounds are different. Too, instead of the deep baritone of ministers, you hear the lighter cadence of female voices, and occasionally a burst of gentle laughter. You see a group of Sengaksi, young court ladies in training, practicing their gliding walk across a courtyard, balancing porcelain bowls on their heads to achieve the perfect, serene grace required of them. You are looking into another world, a world of hundreds of women who have pledged their entire lives to the service of the royal family. These gangyenyo, or court ladies, are not simple servants. They are highly trained, often literate, and wield their own forms of quiet influence within the palace walls. It is a life of honor and privilege, but also a life of gilded isolation, a life sworn to celibacy and obedience. You find a secluded bench in a small ornamental garden, a quiet space between the bustling outer court and the forbidden inner one. It's dusk, that liminal time the old folks call the dog and wolf hour, when the fading light plays tricks on the eyes and faces are difficult to distinguish. From here, you have a partial view of a small, rarely used service gate leading out of the women's quarters. You sit in the deepening shadows, simply observing the palace wind down. And then you see it. A young court lady, no older than yourself, slips out of the gate. She moves with a nervous, furtive energy that is the complete opposite of the graceful trainees you just saw. She darts into the shadows behind a large, decorative rock, thinking herself completely hidden. A moment later, a palace guard on his patrol approaches. His route should take him straight past this garden, but he deviates. He slows his pace, his eyes scanning the area, and then moves purposefully towards the same rock. He is young, too, his face taut with anxiety. They meet in the deep shadow. It is a meeting that is absolutely, unequivocally forbidden. A relationship between a court lady sworn to the king and a guard, entrusted with his safety, is a transgression of the highest order, a crime punishable by a slow and painful death for both of them. You are frozen to your bench, an unwilling witness to their impossible secret. You are too far away to hear their words, but their frantic, desperate pantomime tells a story of its own. It is not a romantic tryst. There is too much fear in their posture. He speaks in urgent, hushed tones, and she replies, shaking her head. He reaches out, not in a lover's embrace, but just to touch the sleeve of her robe, a gesture of desperate reassurance that lasts only a second before he snatches his hand back. She then presses a small, folded piece of hangy paper into his palm. A message? A warning? A plea? This single, silent act is a powerful testament to something scholars will debate for centuries: the agency of women at court. This young woman is not a decorative, passive doll in the palace's collection. She is a person with her own plans, her own loyalties, her own desperate needs, and she is risking everything to pursue them. Your mind, trained for observation and recording, begins to spin. What is your duty now? The principle of the straight brush is absolute. Record what you see. This is an event, a fact. But to write it down, even in your private notes, would be to create a piece of evidence that could lead to their execution. Does this quiet, desperate meeting belong in the same annals as tax codes and ministerial appointments? Is this history, or is it merely a private tragedy you have stumbled upon? You remember Park's lesson about the power of omission. You make a decision. You do not reach for your brush. You decide that this fragile, terrifying moment of human connection does not belong to the state. It does not belong to the annals. It belongs to the two people who are risking their lives for it. To record their secret would not be an act of historical integrity. It would be an act of profound cruelty. Perhaps the truest exercise of the straight brush is knowing when to put it down. The guard and the court lady part as quickly as they met, melting back into their separate worlds. You remain in the garden as full darkness descends, the image of their shared desperation burned into your mind. You have learned a vital lesson tonight. The official history, the one you painstakingly record every day, is a clean, orderly skeleton. But the palace is full of a different kind of history, a history of whispers, of secrets, of forbidden desires and desperate gambles. This is the unwritten history, the flesh and blood that covers the bones. The palace is not just a seat of government. It is a cage of countless human hearts, and you have just seen two of them beating wildly against the bars. The years begin to blend into one another, marked not by changing seasons but by the reigns of kings. You are no longer the wide-eyed novice, terrified of spilling your ink. You are a senior scribe, a man whose face now carries the fine lines of concentration and whose hands are permanently stained with the ghost of black ink, no matter how hard you scrub. Your hair is threaded with silver, and your back aches from decades spent hunched over a low desk. You have served through the final brilliant years of King Sejong's reign and into the more turbulent rule of his successors. You have filled hundreds of scrolls with your spidery, efficient script, your sacho. They are a testament to a life spent in silent observation, a private history of your times. Then, the event that the entire nation has long dreaded comes to pass. The great King Sejong, the sage of the dynasty, breathes his last. The nation is plunged into a period of deep and genuine mourning. But for you and the other historians of the Jifianjian, grief is a luxury you cannot fully afford. With the death of a monarch, your most sacred and monumental task begins: the compilation of the Siluk, the veritable records of his reign. A new temporary government body is formed, the Siluk Shong, the Office for Annals Compilation. By royal decree, you are appointed to it, alongside the most senior scholars and officials in the kingdom. Your mentor, Park, now a frail old man with a wispy white beard and eyes that seem to see through time itself, is named one of its chief supervisors. The work begins in a dedicated hall within the palace, and the scale of it is staggering. Carts arrive day after day, filled with scrolls and documents from every ministry, every office, every scribe who served during Sejong's long and eventful reign. Room after room is filled with these records, stacked from floor to ceiling. It is the raw, chaotic, collective memory of an entire golden age, and your job is to distill it into a single, cohesive, and truthful narrative. You and the other members of the committee unroll the sacho, detailing a specific event, for instance, a border dispute from 20 years prior. You have 3 different scribes' accounts. One focuses on the passionate, patriotic speech of the commanding general. A second, more cynical scribe noted the logistical nightmare of the supply lines. A third recorded the king's quiet, strategic questions that revealed the general's bluster. Your own record might contain a note about the weariness in the king's eyes that day. Now the arguments begin. This is the heart of the great academic debate about the Silic's objectivity. The final version is not simply copied. It is curated. A minister on the committee whose family was allied with that general argues for using the first account, the heroic one. You and Park, however, argue for a more complex narrative, one that includes the logistical failings and the king's subtle guidance. Every day is a quiet, scholarly battle. You are fighting not with swords, but with citations and interpretations, each official maneuvering to ensure their version of the past, the version that best serves their political faction or philosophy, becomes the permanent one. One afternoon, you unroll the scroll and recognize your own handwriting from decades ago. It is your record of the final debate on the Gongbeep tax law. You see the frantic haste in the strokes, the marginalia, the tiny, coded symbol you made to remind yourself of the cold, ruthless flash in King Sejong's eyes. A shiver runs through you as the memory of that moment returns with perfect clarity. You realize with a terrifying, crushing weight that the sentences you and this committee choose today will be all that remains of that complex event. Future generations will not know the tension that filled the air like static electricity. They will only know the polished, finalized words that you approve. The responsibility is immense, almost paralyzing. Is it more truthful to include the cold look which might paint the beloved king in a harsher light, or to omit it, preserving the simpler, more benevolent image? After more than a year of intense, exhausting work, the final manuscript of King Sejong's Silic is complete. It comprises hundreds of volumes, a monumental legacy in paper and ink. But one final, solemn act remains. All of the source materials, the thousands upon thousands of sacho scrolls, including every word you have personally recorded, over 3 decades, are loaded onto ox carts. They are transported under heavy guard to the banks of the Han River. There, in a formal ceremony known as sacho, the washing of the records, the scrolls are unbound. You stand on the riverbank and watch as court servants take the pages and dip them into the flowing water. The ink, your ink, the ink of your colleagues and rivals, bleeds from the durable hanji paper, turning the currents downstream a murky gray. The pages are stirred and agitated until they break down, returning to the slurry of mulberry pulp from which they were born. The purpose of this act is twofold. It ensures that the Silic is now the one and only official history, with no contradictory drafts left to create confusion. But more importantly, it protects the scribes. It destroys the evidence of who wrote what, shielding them and their families from any future political retribution. It is the final enforcement of your anonymity. You watch as 30 years of your life's work dissolves into the river. It is a strange, hollow feeling, a profound mixture of loss and liberation. Your individual voice is gone forever, but it has been absorbed into a chorus that will sing for 1,000 years. Your name will be forgotten, but your work, your straight brush, is now immortal. The ink is dry. The final stitch in the last binding is complete. In a secure hall within the palace, 4 identical, perfect sets of the veritable records of King Sejong now exist. One will remain here in the capital, at the Chungchugwan, the Office of State Records. But history has taught your people a bitter lesson about keeping all your precious memories in one basket. A single fire, a single invasion, could wipe out a century of truth. And so the other 3 sets must embark on a great journey. As a senior historian, a man whose own youthful records were washed away to create this final truth, you have been given one last great duty: to escort one of these copies to its final, secret resting place, a mountain fortress of knowledge called a Sago Dot. Your destination is the archive on Mount O'Day, a rugged and remote peak deep in the eastern provinces. The preparation for the journey is a ceremony in itself. You watch as junior scribes, with the same nervous precision you once had, meticulously prepare the volumes. Each book is checked one last time, then wrapped in oiled paper, tough and slick, to the touch, to protect it from moisture. This bundle is then wrapped in a layer of fine red silk, a mark of its royal importance. Finally, each silk-wrapped volume is placed carefully into a large chest made of thick camphor wood, designed to repel insects and withstand the rigors of travel. The chests are sealed, locked, and then loaded with immense reverence onto a grand, covered palanquin. It is the kind of litter used to transport a queen or a high prince. Today, its passenger is history itself. The procession leaves the palace gates with great solemnity. At its head is a contingent of the kingdom's elite royal guard, their spears and standards glinting in the morning sun. You and 2 other high-ranking officials ride on horseback, your faces grim and determined. In the center of your column is the palanquin, carried on the broad shoulders of 12 powerful servants, who walk with a slow, measured, and perfectly smooth gait. Bringing up the rear is another troop of soldiers. You are not just moving books. You are performing a sacred rite, escorting the soul of a king's reign to its sanctuary. The journey is long and grueling. The bustling streets of Hanyang soon give way to provincial towns, then small villages, and finally to the wild, untamed countryside. You travel for weeks. The smooth, swaying motion of the palanquin is a constant, hypnotic presence. You cross wide, rushing rivers on wooden ferries and navigate narrow, treacherous mountain passes where a single misstep could send the precious cargo tumbling into a gorge. Each night, the procession stops at a fortified local administrative office or a remote Buddhist temple. The chests are unloaded and brought inside, and you and the other officials take 4-hour shifts, sitting vigil beside them through the night. a drawn sword across your lap. The physical hardship, the aching muscles, the sleepless nights, they all serve to deepen the profound importance of your mission. At last, after nearly a month of travel, you see it. Mount O'Day rises before you like a great green wave, its peaks shrouded in a perpetual crown of mist. The air here is thin and tastes of pine and cold stone. The final leg of the journey is the most difficult, a steep, winding path accessible only on foot. The palanquin is left behind, and the chests are carefully strapped to the backs of sure-footed porters for the final ascent. You dismount and make the climb alongside them, your old legs protesting, your breath coming in ragged. Bursts dot near the summit, nestled in a small protected plateau. You find it, the Odison Sago. It is not a grand or beautiful building. It is a fortress. Its walls are made of thick, rough-hewn blocks of granite, designed to withstand fire and force. The roof is heavy tile, and the few windows are small, high slits in. The stone more for ventilation than for light. The entire compound is surrounded by another stone wall, patrolled by a small, dedicated garrison of soldiers who live here year-round. It is a place of stark, serious purpose. The heavy wooden doors of the archive are unsealed, and you step inside. The air is cool, dry, and smells of ancient paper and stone. Along the walls, sturdy wooden shelves hold the annals of previous kings. A silent library of the dynasty's past. You watch as the porters carefully unload their burdens, and the chests containing the history of King Sejong are placed in their designated empty space on the shelves. A sense of profound security washes over you. Here, protected by stone and isolation, the truth will be safe. But as you look around, a flicker of doubt enters your mind, echoing a debate future historians will have. This stone box is strong, but it is not impregnable. It is miles from any reinforcing army, a determined enemy, a catastrophic natural. Fire, or even simple long-term neglect, could breach these walls. You look at the stoic face of the elderly Buddhist monk, who is the chief caretaker of this facility. You realize the stone is only the vessel. The true guardian of this history is human devotion, the quiet, anonymous courage of the men who will live out their days on this lonely mountain, protecting not treasure, but truth. The handover is completed. Ledgers are signed with your seal, and that of the resident archivist. Keys are formally exchanged. Your duty is done. You step back outside into the thin mountain air and watch as the heavy doors are closed and the great iron bar is slid into place. The sun is beginning to set, painting the misty peaks in hues of orange and purple. You have escorted a king's life to its eternal rest. The journey back to the capital will be long, but your heart and your palanquin will be much, much lighter. The history is safe. You are old now. The palace, with its endless corridors and intrigues, is a distant memory. You live in a small, humble house on the outskirts of Hanyang, close enough to hear the city's faint hum, but far enough for the silence to be real. Your world is now the size of your small, well-tended garden, where chrysanthemums bloom in the autumn sun. It's a quiet life, a virtuous retirement that other retired officials might envy, filled with the simple cultivation of plants instead of the complex cultivation of politics. Your back is permanently stooped, a human arch bent by decades of devotion to a desk. Your eyes, which once scanned the faces of kings and ministers for the slightest flicker of intent, are now weak and clouded with age. You sit on the wooden porch tomorrow, feeling the warmth of the afternoon sun on your face, and you look down at your hands. They are wrinkled and covered in the brown spots of old age, but they are remarkably steady. And across the knuckles and under the fingernails, there are faint bluish-gray stains that have never fully washed away, the ghost of 1,000 ink sticks. These hands are your personal testament, the instruments that recorded an entire age. You think of the volumes of King Sejong's Silk, resting silently in their stone fortress on a misty mountain you will never see again. Your words, your observations are sealed within those pages, but your name is not. You are as anonymous as the man who made the stones for the palace walls. This was the central bargain of your life, a choice you made when you first stepped into the Joseon. You exchanged your name for a chance to touch eternity. You sacrificed personal ambition for a role in preserving a collective truth. And now, at the end of your days, you find yourself grappling with the question that will one day occupy historians. Was it a fulfilling life? A profound sense of peace settles in you as you reflect. The pride in your contribution is a solid, warm stone in your chest. To have served such a purpose feels like the highest honor. Yet there is a gentle, companionable loneliness to it as well. You are a ghost in your own story, a footnote that was deliberately erased. It is not a bitter feeling, but a poignant one, like listening to a beautiful, melancholic melody. Your mind drifts back across the years to the darkest day of your career. It was long after King Sejong's death, during the reign of his son, King Seo. A group of brilliant, loyal scholars from your beloved Joseon, men you had worked with for years, were implicated in a plot to restore the previous deposed king. They were captured, tortured, and executed. In a rage, King Seo, the very man whose father had founded the Hall of Worthies, ordered it to be abolished. You remember the day the soldiers came to seal the doors, the feeling of losing your home, of your scholarly family being shattered. The golden age was truly over. Your work continued, of course. The duty of the scribe was too important to be abandoned. But you were moved to the Chunchuguan, the main government archives, and the spirit was different. The sense of being part of a special, protected intellectual sanctuary was gone forever. A small hand tugs on your sleeve, pulling you from your reverie. It is your grandson, his eyes wide and curious. He holds a brush and a small sheet of paper. "Grandfather," he says, "show me again. Show me the character for River." You smile. You take the brush, your fingers finding their familiar grip. You dip it in the ink he has prepared a little too watery, but he is learning. With a single fluid stroke, a lifetime of discipline flowing from your shoulder to your fingertips, you paint the character. The 3 lines are parallel, strong, and full of motion. You realize, looking at the boy's rapt face, that your legacy is not only locked away on a mountain, it is here. It is in the discipline you can pass on, the quiet joy of making a perfect mark, the love of learning you can instill. The sun is low now, and the air grows cool. You look at your ink-stained hands one last time. They are the hands of a forgotten man, a name history will never know. But they are the hands that gave history a voice. They recorded the triumphs and the follies, the grand debates and the secret whispers. Your life, like your early Sacho drafts, has been washed away in the river of time, but you helped to create something that will endure, and that you decide in the quiet of the evening is a truly beautiful form of immortality. And so our old scribe rests. The brush is finally still. The inkstone is clean and dry, its cool surface reflecting the last gentle light of dusk. The story of his long and quiet life fades, not into silence, but into the soft, peaceful hum of your own room. Feel the story. Gently drift away like a boat sailing off into a calm, misty sea, leaving behind only a sense of deep and profound peace. All the tension of the court, the weight of history, the thrill of secrets, you can let it all go now. Your only duty is to rest. Let the image of the quiet Jiffian Jen settle in your mind. See its paper-screened windows glowing with the warm, soft light of a few oil lamps. Imagine the sound of a gentle breeze rustling the leaves of the bamboo outside its walls. There are no more debates to be recorded, no more kings to observe. The work is done. The hall itself is sleeping, breathing quietly in the cool night air. That same sense of peace, of a great task completed, can be yours now. Your day is done. You have done enough. You are enough. Feel the gentle weight of your blanket, a comforting pressure that grounds you and makes you feel secure. Tune into the steady, rhythmic hum of the fan, a soothing, mechanical lullaby that carries away any lingering thoughts. Your breathing is slow and deep now, each exhale a soft release of tension you didn't even know you were holding. Let your muscles grow heavy and warm, sinking deeper into the soft support of your bed. Your eyelids are heavy, so very heavy, like silk curtains closing at the end of a long and satisfying play. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to think about. You are safe. You are comfortable. You are drifting now, gently, effortlessly into a quiet, restorative sleep. The mountain archives are standing guard over their stories, and you can stand down from yours. Rest now. You've reached the end of another cozy, nappy tale. Sleep well, and remember, you're always welcome here. Sweet dreams, nappy friend.